So yeah, like for us as the on-chain creators, it's kind of hard to figure out what's the funnel. Okay, if they're going to the pods, are they gonna listen to it? Like we don't really know if they just click on it, listening to it, like what's happening there. Like who knows? So yeah, like we're still using the YouTube and Spotify because that's what people ask for. They're like, I will better
Yep.
listen it to on the Spotify. And you're like, okay, let's bring it to the Spotify. And then you do have on Spotify some data about the dropouts and stuff like that. But I think nothing compares to YouTube, the way they provide the data.
Then you don't need the virality. Then the best thing may actually be that front to back album or that 20-page book that you get more money out of than or just as much money on that platform than you get out of the 20, 50 top tweets out of 1,000. So then it really makes sense for those creatives to put time into that.
What do you think is the best album? Maybe the best era of Eminem?
The Marshall Mathers LP, because it's the best blend of the still aggressive Eminem and has in your face parts, while also having a lot of songs that really go deep and move you emotionally. So it has the best of both worlds. While something like Kamikaze, who just came out a couple of years ago, is just aggressive into your face, doesn't have that. Um, the Eminem show is really cool hits, has some party things, has some other, but doesn't really have that. Slim Shady LP is just joking too in your face and doesn't have that mix. Like it has the best mix of albums. The newest one is too new for me to name it the best one. I would have to just go back, listen to the older ones, and compare it again. But the new one is also good, like the Death of Slim Shady.
I think generally all the artists, when they're in the beginning and there's like a first two albums or something, are the best because they're kind of still not fully immersed in the new world that they're like if they broke through and stuff. You can see how it is reflected in their work that they create, right? That they have completely different problems and stuff. And for some reason, I don't know, like I find these early ones are always more raw.
You should listen to the new one then. You will, if that's what you're looking for with Eminem, listen to the new album because he did such a good job of doing that again. Like I don't know how he does it. Also, the Marshall Mathers LP2 that came out in 2012 is great, and like there's a bunch of Eminem where he sort of reinvented himself or just modernized his
Yeah.
style or had a totally different style. Yes, for a lot of artists, it's that. For something like we talked about 50 Cent earlier, and Get Rich or Die Trying is still like there's a bunch of songs maybe that you were listening to in clubs that is from later albums, but he never got back to that raw 50 Cent again. Even when I'm listening to the new stuff, like he doesn't put out music as much, but he's like there's a single there or a feature there. It's not the 50 that you think of. It's still 50 Cent, like the rap ability is still there. It's just not that raw thing because how rich is he now? Like you can't rap about being broke while you're rich. And it's funnily it's Eminem like says some of that on his songs where he's like he's looking for that line he hasn't spit yet. Like if you listen to Revival, which is an album that most people don't like, it's not an album that where I would go back and listen to it front to cover a lot of times. But it's an album that if you want to remind yourself about those struggles that you listen to, and then Walking on Water with Beyonce, he's basically just admitting like this. He's at a point like 2 or 3 albums ago where he doesn't even know what to do anymore because he has basically done everything. It's so hard. As he goes back and checks, like he has a cool idea and he's like, that line is really great. And then he realizes, fuck, I already spit that line like years ago. It's already taken.
It made me think of this conversation that Rick Rubin had on his podcast with some guest a while ago, where he was saying that you, at the beginning, you were like create the trends, versus at the end, you're following the trends to keep up with your fame and like hold up to this expectation that,
Yeah.
well, that you've set for yourself, which is, must be so hard.
Also, like that happens in tech as well. Like it happens in most parts where initially you're the disruptor and then you're the disrupted.
Yeah.
So unless you constantly disrupt yourself, you will just be disrupted. And it's one thing where I feel like has been really good at in not following the current commercial trend, but making either that into his own and just having fun with it, or really coming up with something new. Like the new album is 1 hour or even more of music, and I can only listen to it front to back. Like I tried listening to some singles, but I'm not at the point yet where I have listened to the album so many times that I just can't listen to it front to back. And then I can go into singles. Like he still is where he's still innovating albums that you want to listen to front and back, which most current artists don't have an album that you can listen to front and back. You only want to listen to the 3 singles out of the album, and the only reason there's like 7 other songs on there is because they can sell you the album, and then they can get into the album charts.
I think it's also maybe a struggle for them as well, because it's kind of like the reality of the social media that kind of pushes them to release the kind of like singles or like the snippets that kind of going to be trendy on social media, and nobody really listens or knows the rest of their music.
How many people have made a music career out of one 10-second clip of their music? Like Pedro, 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 Pedro. Have you really listened to the song a lot, or just is that the only thing you listen to and then you heard some of it on like some DJ's gig and remix? Like they earn money out of those remixes because of royalties. Like they're good now, but I haven't heard any other song of them come up, and it's been a couple of months. It's like that is likely going to be a one-trick pony, but that one-trick pony is now that music is so big and so monetized, good enough to sustain, and the only things you need. So there's a bunch of people obviously chasing that. It's similar to art, right? Like some people chase selling one artwork for $1 billion, while some people chase making the best 1,000 artworks that then sell for $1 million each to get to this billion. But it's way harder to sell 1,000 artworks at 1 million than it's to have just one out of your 1,000 artworks sell for $1 billion.
It makes me also think about the conversation we had with Cooper about virality, like how this whole concept is changing on chain.
I would defer. Like I wouldn't say that you can influence it with on-chain stuff. The only thing you can do with on-chain stuff right now is you can't have all of the good social algorithms and all that because we haven't built the infra for it. But that's where it's going to go. Like look at Farcaster. Farcaster used to be a reverse chronological feed because there was not a lot of content. Now there is still not a lot of content compared to Twitter or Reddit, so you still have mostly reverse chronological. But Warpcast is now building algorithmic feeds, and this is the direction they're going, and they have clearly stated that. Why? Because that's what people consume the most, and the end metric is most consumption. So the only thing we can do with on-chain stuff is we can build own economies. And there it gets interesting. Because if we can build an economic system that sustains itself, and this is the first hard part that we have never achieved in crypto, like the way Bitcoin and Ethereum sustain themselves is more people coming in. And that is making the price go up. For Bitcoin, that allows the miners to then sell their issuance and keep the network going. But that's a different topic if that's going to end and what happens there. The Bitcoin people figured that out. Ethereum is, well, applications running on Ethereum have you buy Ethereum to use it, and that actually sustains right now so that they can give issuance, but the token doesn't really just inflate into hell. But we haven't figured it out elsewhere. Like there's most that's why my hot take was about VCs just joking around VC funds, because you don't have a sustainable economic model in crypto for most places. And if we can figure out a way to make the virality not just time you consume in app, but meaningful interactions and monetize them somehow, then you don't need the virality. Then the best thing may actually be that front to back album or that 20-page book that you get more money out of than or just as much money on that platform than you get out of the 20, 50 top tweets out of 1,000. So then it really makes sense for those creatives to put time into that. One great thing similar is how we do subscriptions on chain, or how newsletters now become monetized, like with Substack, Patreon, whatever, where people pay $10 a month because that long form article is worth enough to them. What we have to do is just make sure that gets into the eyes of readers. Like a lot of those newsletter people complain that they can't reach audiences because obviously they want to write long form, but they need to master the short form to get people into their long form, because there's no virality built into the newsletter because people don't usually share the newsletter around. Like they just consume it, then they like the insights and they're done. Whereas with a short 15-second funny TikTok, you share that to your friends in the app.
That's a thing, this is what I was like when I had Johnny, we were talking about kind of subscriptions and how people subscribe to the content and stuff. Like I'm a little bit suspicious because I'm personally like even not talking about the content, which is more of a privilege. Like I want to subscribe to some person, and I'm kind of subscribing to it because I just want it. Right? There is no requirement behind it. But even like being a founder, like there's so different systems that we're using, and we're considering, do we need the subscription for that now? because we have costs and stuff. So you're kind of trying to optimize. And then when you think about a normal person, to interact with the content or to consume something, you always need to subscribe because there is like too many subscriptions and then spending too much money. And then imagine like if you have to subscribe to different creators all the time.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was like, it probably kind of introduces you the competition, like you're becoming a business, and then just like as an application, right? There is a competition between people and between apps, like which one they're going to use, and then
But
based on it, they're kind
has
of
it
like
all
win.
has it not always been a business? Like when
Yeah,
has it
yeah,
not been a business?
yeah. I agree with that.
Is
But what I mean is like probably yeah, it was always like with the Patreon and stuff, like who you're going to subscribe to. But a person, a creator, still will be creating the free content, I guess, because they need to convert
get
somehow
people
people
into the subscription.
into the subscription. My question is like, or my concern is like, it's probably going to be the same proportion of people's, like 1% of creators who actually can build a business and have a sustainable income from whatever they create from a subscription. But the 99% people probably won't be able to do that because they won't be able to convert. Like, I guess this is my main concern about subscriptions. They won't be able to convert these people into their subscribers because people already have subscribed to so many different things. They will skip that person. So I think that when we talk about the economic models of the new networks, it should explore the new ways how everyone could sustain themselves and maybe not build like a huge business and trillions of dollars and stuff, but at least enough for them to not work on some random job that just sustains them to do things that they like that doesn't sustain them. So it's kind of like at least has this minimum or average rate, which is enough for many people who create on the social media, right? Because they do this, crave it sometimes between the jobs that they kind of don't care about. I think that's what I want to see because subscription is hard for 99% of people. Like you have to compete with those who have the whole system or the whole business built in, or they know how to do really good the social media. And what about the small ones? Like it would be great if they could do enough to live on that.
What I would love for crypto to figure out in those kind of new economies that you're talking about is how can we make sure that the platform offers a native subscription or whatever so that people are used to it? Or like, say you subscribe to Netflix, but instead of Netflix making all of the money, the show that you're watching, usage-based, gets attribution. Similar, like Spotify has done it, where you subscribe to one platform and then the artist gets money. Though the artist doesn't get a lot of money, right? Like they don't share as much. Whereas in crypto, we could probably share more and still be highly profitable because we don't have to run as much of the backend because that's done by the blockchain for us. Like we don't have a lot of engineering costs if blockchains become easier to use, obviously.
Yeah.
Like the building the system itself is hard, but sustaining the business, running the system is really easy because that's just on blockchain. And I think figuring something out there, similar to what like Alpha Friends had these like private chats and communities where you would say like, oh yeah, I'm using them, but that using them means you're just part of them, and as long as you're part of it, the creator gets money, and if you stop being a part of it, then all of a sudden the creator gets no money anymore. And as long as that is a fair rate so that more people can sustain than can currently do on Spotify, and it's just social, like that's why I'm excited about Farcaster, where we could build clients and whatever where the social then sustains that for people because you get paid out of people viewing your content. But then the question is, yes, we can build all of these systems, but who is putting the money into the system, right? Like, is it going to be advertisers? Is it going to be just us getting used to subscription services again? Because a big part of VC money is we can make everything free. A big part of Web2 is, well, because you're so valuable to us and to our advertisers, we can make it free for you to sign up, which decreases friction, and decreasing friction always leads to more conversions. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into how you design those incentives. And while you design incentives, you have to always think about the worst case and be like, okay, how can this be abused? and what
Yeah.
are the side effects of that? And that is really hard. That's why like incentive mechanism mostly doesn't work, because then there will be something they haven't thought of, and then you have to scrape it, or just it gets exploited and not used.
Talking about incentives, it's also like, why do you do this? Because like in the Cooper's episode, Paul was talking about how they were using, I forgot the platform's names, but kind of like, what? Yeah, boosting. Like it basically sounds like your advertisement that, you're on this platform, people buying your token. And because of it, like, and the token is basically the episode or something, right? And it, in the numbers, it sounds really nice. And probably if you make good and, invest enough, it kind of converts in some numbers, I believe. But then the question is like, did you get the right people, like who you were incentivizing? So yeah, like incentives even in socials, like just watching, it sounds a bit like, when on the workspaces people have, like, you have to have your screen active. So you just figure out the ways how you can watch without actually watching it. But yeah, so same thing could be in socials. This is why probably it's important to figure out what exactly you're incentivizing, just the consumption of the content, which is like just watching it, or something else, or there is like some different types of algorithms that figure out that your consumption or time watched is genuine or more genuine than just a person's doing it on a purpose, with other, I guess, components, or like
Maybe like you can see what user was watching like this certain part of the video and then went ahead and talked about it later.
It's also
Yeah,
one thing we haven't figured out at all in crypto and all of it is how to do analytics. Like I saw your post about like how you don't know who actually listens to your episodes.
yeah.
You know who like pays for them and tips you, so to say, but you don't know who actually listens to them. You get all of that data mostly in Web 2. You don't get it in Web 3. And like
Yeah.
until we have clients who just share that, and there's some privacy concerns in sharing all of that data, you will never have that attribution. So it will always be better for the creator to stay in Web 2, because that means they can improve. While in Web 3, they're blind.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the analytics side, I know that Pods is going to include those at some point. They're already collecting the data. They're just not making it available for the creators yet.
Can they collect who views their episodes? Likely not.
Listening numbers.
Yeah, but
Like,
but you don't know if you share something as just a media file somewhere on chain, then if I'm listening to it through Etherscan or some other stupid way, you will never get the data as long as Etherchain, Etherscan, or all of those places exposing that content to you collect it in some place.
it's only on their website where you can actually see like where the data that they will provide for us, for example, since we're on the Pods page, is well, who clicked the play button. That's basically it.
but yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
So
so you don't know when
really
they
know.
drop out.
This about the data and the dropout stuff and like how long they listened, that's another question. I don't know. We didn't have the detailed analytics discussion, but the only reason why we switched from Zora to Pods with their podcast is because there's at least a little bit better UI for people to listen,
Yeah.
but there's no video, and it's really more like we want to treat it as a place to mint for now, not as a place to consume the media.
That's the thing, I was asking Lucas during the call, but that's the thing that, they do have it like somewhere in the roadmap, but it sounds more like not very soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we're still using the YouTube and Spotify because that's what people ask for. They're like, I will better listen it to on the Spotify. And you're like, okay, let's bring it to the Spotify. And then you do have on Spotify some data about the dropouts and stuff like that. But I think nothing compares to YouTube, the way they provide the data, ways that we listen to pods and stuff like that. It's just like perfect with that. So yeah, like for us as the on-chain creators, it's kind of hard to figure out what's the funnel. Okay, if they're going to the pods, are they going to listen to it? Like we don't really know if they just click on it, listening to it, like what's happening then. Like who knows?
Yeah, and that is one thing where, like what I said earlier, the friction has to be the lowest. Like for you, it's more friction to publish on chain, but it aligns with your values. So that's why you do it. For most people, that is definitely not the case. Their values is not about going on chain or whatever. Like the benefits of going on chain have to be higher than what the current is, because otherwise you have no use case.
It makes me think that it all comes back to community, like building your personal brand first, because then you have the exposure to people. You can say, I'm just going to go on chain because I'm going to be on Spotify and YouTube, or maybe even not, but the people come to like mint our stuff on chain because they want to support you. It's all about like having this brand.
Easier for you to get supported through a single Stripe checkout or whatever, or on chain. I enter my payment details, I can pay however I want, and I'm done. Is that easier for, like, say, $1 one time? Is that easier, or is going on chain minting the episode easier?
Obviously, the first one is easier. That's the thing.
Yep.
That is what we have to fix, because you are incentivized, your community is already having wallets and knows how to do all that. So for them, it's somewhat second nature. It will. I doubt that we're running around. Everyone is connecting MetaMask or whatever a wallet to some stupid page. Like
That's the thing. You know,
it's too high friction.
you're very limited in your target audience. You have to be only specifically for crypto people that already have this thing. So you're kind of like eliminating all the hard work, which is
Oh, so we're building a circle again?
yeah. So
No,
then you're
but
like, oh,
that's my whole point, is we're circle jerking in this whole
Yep.
industry, and we're saying that this circle jerk, just because the circle moves faster and there's more money, means we get more people like outside that are just outside of that circle. No, we don't. It's just the circle spins faster, and more people try to get into that fast spinning circle, but that's not the people you want. Like, you don't want the person who wants to make more money to go into crypto. You want the person who wants to make all of it easier to go into crypto and build something, and then just spread that from what they have built, spread to the outside world. Like, Facebook didn't become Facebook because they wanted to make a lot of money. Maybe, yeah, obviously they built a business, but it was like, I want to see my friends and what they
Yeah.
share. And then people onboarded to that. It's not like that Facebook was like, oh yeah, we want to make a lot of money. Here's a lot of money. We will get the people that also want to make a lot of money to just go onto our thing, pay us a little bit, and then we just fuck off. It's just totally different worlds. That's
Yep.
what I'm sad about.